Hello everyone, welcome back to Pixel Village and I am Radha Krishnan. This is the all-new Panasonic Lumix S5II. This was launched worldwide during January and it was launched in India officially on the 20th of February. And Pixel Village was lucky enough to be present in the front row while the event was taking place in Delhi. It was launched by the top brass of the Indian marketing team and international bigwigs from Panasonic, Japan. And this is the original S5, which actually looks exactly almost like a Siamese twin of the S5. We have in fact done a full-blown video review of the S5. I'll add a link in the description if you feel like you can go and watch that. But by now, the entire internet world has already spoken about the specs and every bit of detail about the S5 Mark II. So going back and repeating all those tech specs really may not make too much of a sense. So what I am trying to attempt in this video is going to be our impression of the S5II and why it is an important camera given the scenario, and some major differences in comparison to the original S5. So technically both cameras have similar sensor resolution. Almost all technical specs are very similar. Even they look and feel and even weigh very similar except for couple of physical differences. For example, this bump here. Now you already know why the viewfinder cage is a little bigger than the S5. If you don't know, I'll explain why it is. Let me first keep the S5 away. So before we go into all that, let me tell you why this camera is an important camera. Not just for Panasonic Lumix, but for the photography world in general. As a photographer who started the photography journey with films, I don't really look at a camera and get impressed by the technical specifications of a camera. That's how I've been, and I still, if you look at my collection of cameras, I still own and use some of the cameras which are more than 12, 13-year-old, and I still shoot with it and I'm extremely happy with it. But when you explain a camera, well, as a reviewer, you explain it for all the technical details that it provides. Now, not many camera manufacturers can really boast the kind of pedigree or history which Lumix can actually talk about. You all know that the L Alliance eventually resulted in this L mount, and the Lumix series of big full-frame cameras was a result of three big giants coming together: Leica, Panasonic, and of course Sigma. And everyone brought in the best of their understanding of photography technology. Leica undoubtedly is the Rolls-Royce among still photography cameras. Sigma is an amazing lens manufacturer, and Panasonic, of course, has a great pedigree when it comes to motion picture. They dig deep into their VariCam range of products to kind of bring the video understandings to you. So for me, this actually is a culmination of three grades coming together. So when you buy into the Lumix, and in fact, I'll stick my neck out and say even the S1, the S1R, the S1H, and the S5 and the S5II, and each camera was a brilliant one in whatever they were offering. And of course, there were these small murmur about the focusing technology they adopted, the DFT, depth by defocus, which was relatively slower in comparison to the phase detect and the dual pixel autofocus system. Now, their original claim was that they did it purely not to compromise on the quality of the image, and rightly so. Lots of people had that as a big complaint. So I've been a part of many WhatsApp groups, Lumix WhatsApp groups, where I kept on hearing about these small dissatisfaction about the speed in autofocus, etc. And no one really complained about the image quality. The S1H and the BS1H, you all know, is a Netflix approved camera too. Now, when you look at all that, you can really see that Panasonic has not really compromised on any aspect of, creating a hybrid camera. And because of the same reason, I used to really like Panasonic as a camera. Now, we have an S1H, we have the S5, we have the BGH1, we have a G6 here. So we are extremely happy with those cameras as well. So what I am trying to tell you is that when you buy into the Lumix family, you are actually buying into the best of still photography and the best of videography, and the hybrid cameras are all about that, right? So when you buy a hybrid camera, you would expect best stills and best video capabilities as well. Now, for the sake of recapping for the benefit of this video, let me tell you that this is a 24.2 megapixel camera. It's the same resolution as the S5. It's full frame, but this has an absolutely new sensor and a brand new processor, which can actually give you 30 frames per second. Now, though this is introduced into the the range of cameras as a mid-range camera in terms of price and its kind of marketing position, I think the S5II can take the fight to cameras which are probably twice the price of this camera. I don't want to take names, but I think that is the reality. Besides the new sensor and the new processor, the biggest advantage is now it has a new autofocus system. So the DFD is gone, and in is the face detection autofocus system. That definitely has added a lot of speed into the autofocus system, and I can see a lot of excitement already happening in that same WhatsApp group that I am a part of. So before we do anything, let's quickly take a look at the autofocus and the focus acquisition speed of this camera in both stills and in video. Let's take a look at the improved autofocus capability in still photography mode. All right, okay. And switching sensitivity is 0, moving subjective prediction is 1. Okay, this is the default setting. Let's see how fast the face detection is. Okay, action. Okay, all right, now let me change the speed to AF sensitivity to full, AF switching to full, and prediction to full. All right. Now let's look at the same in video. I'm shooting 4K 25p full frame. Okay, so let me record the screen. Then of course, low light sensitivity of the earlier sensor was brilliant. I've shot the S1 and the S5 at impossible lighting situations, and it has come out in flying colors, no pun intended. Well, this camera too has great low ISO performance. Let's take a look at the low ISO performance of the sensor. So for a still photographer, the biggest advantage of going for the S5II is the improved AF speed, a new sensor, a new processor, greater speed, and 14 stops of dynamic range. Now, 14 stops of dynamic range, both for stills and video, is just amazing. And all these put together makes this camera an amazing still photography camera. Like I mentioned, the only disadvantage the earlier S5 had in comparison to this was the speed in focus. Panasonic has addressed it, so I don't think user will have any more dissatisfaction with the S5II. Now let's move to the video capabilities of the S5II. It's no secret that hybrid cameras, when they shoot video, especially on higher resolutions, tend to heat up. And you know about cameras which hangs up when it's get hot, and many brands have tried to solve it in many different ways, and Panasonic, I think, has solved it in the most clever and the most unique fashion. They just introduced a fan right under the viewfinder cage, so it actually sucks in fresh air from the front and it throws out. So the fresh air, of course, it is cool and it absorbs all the heat that is generated while doing high-res video shooting, and it throws out the hot air through either side. It acts like a fish, right? A fish actually, after trapping the prey, it lets out all the water through its gills. So you see these gills on either side, and you have the suction, a kind of a vent on the front, and a very silent fan inside. And the speed of the fan can be set to a speed that you like, which suits your style of shooting. And the next important change is now there is a full HDMI output in this. Now this is the S5II. They also have announced the S5IIX, which is a video-centric camera and which has got a ton of additional video features. We will mention them. We don't have that camera here, so we'll mention those features, the speciality of those cameras at the end of this video. So a fan and a full HD output. And now it's no longer a secret that the S5II can shoot 6K full frame. It's called the open gate. It can shoot full frame up to 30 FPS. It can shoot multiple resolutions till full HD. So let me read out those resolutions for you, because there is a lot to remember. I think the most popular one is going to be the 4K 25 FPS 422 10-bit internal all intra, which will give you brilliant video. I mean, there is no doubt about the quality of that video for almost all practical purposes. And then of course you have all the other higher resolutions to take in case if you want to. Okay, so what I have done is I have connected the S5II to an external recorder. Okay, I have this Shikari shampoo here. I'm going to explain some of the menu items which I think it is unique Lumix cameras, and some items which are unique to the S5II. And those, I think, are the features which really makes a cinematographer and a high-end video camera user, levitate towards a Lumix camera when it comes to handling or producing videos using a hybrid camera. So let us go into it one by one, and I think the most important one is the availability of a ton of video styles which are available in this. So you can shoot, of course I have the Shikari Shambhu here right in front. Let me change all the different photo styles that are available, or video styles in this case, available here. So this is the standard, you have the vivid, you have natural, classic, neo, flat, landscape, portrait, monochrome, different types of monochrome, and cine like D2 and cine like V2, like 709 and the Vlog. Now suddenly the Vlog really opens out a ton of possibilities. I think on Vlog it uses up the entire 14 stops of dynamic range. I have no data to prove it, but I think it really uses up the entire dynamic range and real-time LUT. This is another advantage. Okay, let me give you a comparison to a still photographer. A still photographer, though this camera can really shoot up raw still images, majority of wedding photographers in particular shoot JPEGs. And what they do in JPEG is they actually burn in a photo style into the image, right? It's a point of no return. You've already burned in that style into your image. Some of them you edit the existing photo style and create your own style and burn that into your JPEG. Whereas RAW remains the ultimate true, image data. Using which you can do whatever you want in the post, but like I said, many wedding photographers prefer to shoot JPEG, so they burn in a style into their JPEG and it's a point of no return. Similarly, in video, if you are in a situation where you want to kind of take advantage of the Vlog, but you want to quickly add a LUT or a lookup or a video style burned into your video, then you can make use of real-time LUT. So real-time LUT is something which you can actually add. So you can switch it on, you can select, you can use the LUT select, switch it on, and it will actually add a look to your video, which will be burnt in. Like I said, it will be permanently burned in. So that is real-time LUT. Another interesting thing is a very professional looking, quick menu. And it's also a touch menu, okay? So one glance and it will give you everything in a professional dial. It'll give you all the information that is required. This really is truly a professional dashboard in which you get all the information, which I think is excellent. Dual native ISO, which is now many cameras offer dual native ISO, especially cameras which are cinema centric or video centric offers dual native ISO. This camera offers dual native ISO and it is different to different photo style. And for every dual native ISO, you can actually set the lower and the upper limit, which is fantastic. Synchro scan. An enemy of a wedding photographer is the LED flicker. If you activate the synchro scan, the system actually understands if there are flickers on the screen and corrects it for you, which is a big boon for wedding cinematographers. This, according to me, is one of the biggest one for a cinematographer. For example, a photographer, someone who's predominantly a still photographer going into doing cinema or video, would like to see the settings in a parameter which is familiar to you. So for me, it is an ISO, of course, and shutter speed in seconds. I can do that if I opt to do this. So I will see it right at the bottom as 50 and 1.8 here, right at the bottom. And cinematographers are usually familiar with shutter angles, and that shutter angle, it will be, for example, 1/50 is equivalent to 180 degrees. So here it is, 180 degrees. And if you are a high-end, video shooter, like a video camera handler in a TV studio, well, such people are familiar with decibels. Okay, gain. So that's how they like to, control their exposure. So all three experts will be able to use this camera very effectively. Of course, this also internally allows you to shoot MOV. Many people shoot MP4, which is a higher compressed format, and this is very big for me. This option of this camera allowing to shoot at full frame or APS-C cropped frame or something called pixel to pixel. So full frame is that it uses up the entire frame. So for example, now this feature is available from 4K downwards, okay? The moment you go up to, let's say, 5.9 or 6 or whatever, it stops being available. It shoots only full frame, but if you're shooting 4K or below, this feature is available. Let me go and fix recording quality. Now I am going to be recording 4K 25p 422 10-bit internal, and it's MOV. I can shoot it in full size. So this is 50mm equal, it's full frame. And take a look at my next option. If I select APS-C, suddenly there is a 1.5 crop here. So let me quickly focus this guy. Okay, he's focused. And the next option that is available is pixel to pixel. So you see a slight zooming in, right? A 4K means 8 megapixel. You know how much is 8 megapixel in 16:9 aspect, correct? Or UHD. It actually shoots exactly what is required for that 4K. And I think that is how cinema should be shot. Well, the advantage of shooting a full frame 4K is that you can cut and zoom into it. But if you project it into a large game, I would argue that you actually will start losing the cinematic feel of the video. Now, I got a lot of flack recently for saying cinematic, and let me tell you, the cinematic understanding is more cultural than technical. We'll do another entirely different video for that. For the time being, let me tell you that if I am given the devices, I will shoot 4K with pixel to pixel. If you are a Lumix owner and you have not tried the pixel to pixel aspect ratio, and if you are a serious cinema maker, you should try the pixel to pixel. It will give you brilliant images. When you shoot full frame and you create a 4K out of it, imagine you are using a 24.2 megapixel image and resing it down to an 8 megapixel image. You're going to have a lot of mathematics happening in between. You're going to have unreal sharpness, moire, whatnot. But when you shoot pixel to pixel, it's going to shoot exactly that 8 megapixel. And you're going to have a brilliant, smooth, silky smooth image with the required amount of depth. Because if I want a certain coverage like I would get in a full frame, I have to actually move back. When I move back in that same aperture, which is like your f2, 2.8 and f4, you get greater depth. I think that's how you should handle a Lumix. And pixel to pixel is something which I have not really seen being used in other cameras. And for some odd reason, including Lumix, I don't see talking about this particular feature. I wonder why. And recording quality, of course, you have a ton of recording quality. And of course, if you want to shoot lower than 60, you also have this S and Q, which is slow and quick, which basically multiplies and gives you very high speeds. But you ask a Puritan, he'll tell you 60 frames per second is more than what is required for in most type of feature film productions, because 60 is fantastic, silky smooth slow motion. Okay, that again is another debate altogether. Well, of course, you have time code. If you're a professional, you know time code is very important. Another area where Panasonic has been giving great importance to right from their Micro Four Thirds cameras is in the area of audio. Even their Micro Four Thirds have external audio devices which allow you to plug in XLR devices. This S5II is not any different. With the help of an external device, again made by Panasonic, you can add 4 external line level inputs, not only record them, also monitor them, which is actually a very big thing. XLR, external uncompressed audio onto an MOV. I don't think you need anything more. You don't need an external audio, separate audio device capturing the audio, then trying to match it in post, etc. You don't require it. Another important feature is you can add a vlog assist. So you're looking at vlog footage without any LUTs on it. You can actually add an LUT of your choice. I only have the 709 in it. You can also upload your favorite LUTs, lookup tables. Let me add the 709 into it, and you can actually add that as an overlay without burning it into the system. You can either see it here in the monitor or send it through the HDMI. So I'm trying to send it through the HDMI. See this instantly. Now the camera is recording a vlog, okay, without any LUT, but for the director to take a look at it and feel happy about, you have the LUT lookup table, which is a great professional feature that is being added in this camera. Anamorphic de-squeeze. So when you work with an anamorphic lens, you know that you get an image which is kind of horizontally squeezed, and you actually lose the bearing because you're not seeing the images properly or the video properly. Here you can actually de-squeeze it according to the squeeze factor. You can dial in the squeeze factor here. It'll allow you to de-squeeze whatever factor that the lens is actually using and see the image perfectly. That again is unique, I've seen, to the Lumix cameras. I think, like I told you in the beginning, these are the features which Panasonic has brought in from the understanding that they have gained through the VariCam and their life as great digital cinema camera manufacturers. Another important thing, again, very cinema-like feature is the availability of scopes, like this waveform, for example. But waveform is the most accurate way to expose your video. One look at it and you know where your Luma values are, and you don't really require. Of course, there is nothing like using your light meter and taking readings from every point in your frame. But if you don't want to use a light meter, I think the waveform is the best way to expose your video. Now the other option is that you also have a vector scope. Vector scope basically allows you to correct your white balance. It usually is a perfect tool in post, but if you want to use the scope to correct your white balance, well, it is there. It's not as easy as it is in the post, but yes, you get an idea as to where the light is swinging towards. To warm, cold, green or blue areas, it actually will tell you where the light is swinging towards. So that's a very interesting feature as well. And of course, then you also have these color bars which you can record for a certain amount of time and go back. So there are different types of standards. You have the EBU, ARIB and the SMPTE. All are different styles which are used by various formats. It was more popular during the video broadcast. It's usually used by the broadcaster. So all these are available in this small form factor. Well, the S5II is loaded with many more exciting video features, and it's going to be available sometime during 2023, and not too much of a price difference from S5 S5II. So if you're someone who's like a hardcore video guy, S5IIX is something which is worth waiting for. But if you're a hybrid shooter, this S5II is brilliant. So combining both stills and video capabilities, what S5II is offering to you is unparalleled. But like I said in the beginning, they have positioned this as a mid-level professional camera, but I think this camera can take the fight to many cameras which are double its price. Well, Pixel Viilage Creator Academy's next photography and filmmaking batch admissions are open. So if you are interested in enrolling for our government approved, internationally accepted diplomas in photography and filmmaking, well, use the link in the description and send in an application, and our students counselors will call you back and assist you in that process. Well, I see you in another video. Bye for now.